All right, guys, we are live. This is the UFC 282 recap show on the Sherdog YouTube page. I'm your host. My name is Keith Shillan. Joining me, as always, is the senior editor of Sherdog.com, the great Ben Duffy. Ben, we got a lot to talk about.
Oh, do we? Anything
Yeah,
interesting
so
happened at the fights tonight?
I don't know how much you follow. I know you usually follow other sports. I think the biggest story in the sports world right now is the World Cup.
Yes.
So for MMA to try to compete with the World Cup to be, more popular in Europe and Southern American countries and stuff, we had a draw. We had a
We had
tie.
a we had a tie. It's the most soccer thing imaginable. And unfortunately, we don't get to go to penalty kicks. We just get a draw.
Yeah,
And
we should do that. We should do that. We should have like not an extra round because I mean that'd be extreme, but maybe like 1 minute. Like, okay, guys, you gotta fight for 1 more minute or 30 seconds, like a 30-second burst. Who wins it?
Works for me.
Obviously, we're making jokes here. The main event, the vacant UFC light heavyweight championship of the world, was supposed to be decided tonight by former champion Jan Blachowicz and Magomed Ankalaev. Instead, we had a split draw, meaning one judge scored it for the former champion Jan Blachowicz, another one for Ankalaev, and another judge scored it a draw. Ben, how did you score the fight?
I scored the fight 49-46 for Magomed Ankalaev.
Okay.
Having said that, I would be fine with people giving Jan any of the first 3 rounds or all.
Really?
I mean, well, no. Giving Jan any of the first 3 rounds. Like, if somebody scored the fight for Jan Blachowicz by giving him the first 3 rounds, I don't absolutely hate that. I definitely came close to giving him the third.
Okay.
Like, I gave Jan the second round. I came close to giving him the third.
Yeah, and I already forgot to not saying a shout out to everyone in the chat talking it up. A lot of people upset with the scorecards. What we'll do is everyone put their scorecards out there. We'll try to post as many as we can. I had a 48-47 Ankalaev. I gave the second and third round to Blachowicz. Yep. To me, the most competitive round was the third round because it was a really weird round in the sense where Ankalaev had the pure numbers. He actually, I think he even got a takedown in that round. He had the numbers, but to me, Blachowicz had the most effective striking. The calf kicks were Magomed Ankalaev. His legs were buckling. I'm surprised that I thought the first round was pretty clear for Ankalaev, and the judges obviously didn't, because I believe all 3 judges gave that first round to Blachowicz,
which is bananas. I mean, I gave it to Ankalaev, and I didn't really feel I had to think about it that hard. Like,
yeah, neither that. Yeah. So, I don't hate the last round being 10-8 because if you go by the criteria of MMA, a dominant round is supposed to be 10-8 now. That's the, under the new scoring. And that was done. I mean, he took him down immediately. The problem I have is just so much inconsistency because we have other rounds that don't get scored 10-8. So it's like, it's rare to see a 10-8, but then when it happens, I can't get mad because that's what is supposed to happen. Kyle Lahi did score a draw. What a hipster Kyle Lahi is.
We love you, Kyle.
Yeah. So the 3 judges had it a draw. Jan Blachowicz, and take this for a grain of salt, he did just fight an absolute killer on Magomed Ankalaev, and he said that he thought Ankalaev won, and then he, Joe Rogan was kind of pushing him, and he's like, well, I just fought, so I have to rewatch it and everything. And it seemed like Dana White was really, Joe Rogan was really trying to push him to say like that Ankalaev won. And at the end, credit to Jan Blachowicz saying, hey, just give him the title.
Yeah.
Which is pretty stand up considering what we saw, say, the night before in Bellator with Danny Sabatella when he lost a very close, somewhat controversial. He walking out, he's not shaking anybody's hands. Much different than we have here. Man, my notes are all over the place because I thought it was an Ankalaev win. So my notes were towards that. I'm trying to, keep my flow here because it's all right. So let's actually talk about the action.
Okay.
We both picked Ankalaev, but one thing we did say is obviously the power of Jan Blachowicz, but we also talked with the calf kicks. We said, I know I said he has 2 victories. One landed a big shot, or 2 just kicking out the legs, and that really was the only thing he did. He kicked the legs. He kicked them a whole bunch of times, and it's funny that leg kicks, calf kicks, through years of martial arts. Think about all the things you watch your martial arts movies, your Bruce Lee movies, your Jackie Chan's, and all this stuff, and they run up the wall, do flips, and all these special things we see, and it's a kick to the calf that is pretty much the most damaging strike in MMA.
It really is. It's one of the few techniques that can really change or win a fight all by itself. And once a fighter establishes it, it's really, really rare that their opponent is able to adjust to it in enough time. It's strange. And no, you never see it in the Bruce Lee movie. It's not sexy.
No,
it's never going to make a highlight reel, especially like the short, really low, calf kick that's kind of come back into mode in the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, this isn't even like Pat Barry winding up from the hip and just like, kicking a man's legs out completely from underneath him. It's just this little chipping thing that about 3 of them land, and all of a sudden the dude's calf is the size of a watermelon. Okay, so I mean, we predicted that might be a factor, but I'm really surprised at how long Ankalaev kind of left himself on the gunnery range there. It was, the 3rd round before he really got a takedown, and it was the 3rd round, late in the 3rd round, before he at least started forcing clinches against the cage, where Blachowicz didn't have the room to uncork that weapon. Like, it was it was an interesting tactical choice or non-choice for Ankalaev.
Yeah, I'm surprised early that he wasn't making adjustments to it, and then when it became such a damage thing, and I think the calf kicks are a thing like that where it doesn't seem like it's bothering you too much. Just suddenly now you can't walk. Yeah. I know I've had that nerve there hit before, and one time I had dead leg, and it was like you feel like you're fine, you start walking, then it just gives out on you. You walk a couple steps and it gives out on you again. It just feels weird. Like every time you feel like, okay, I'm okay. So I don't know if something like that happened to him, but also one thing I will give him a lot of. So he's really sharp. I mean, he's a sharp guy on the outside. Yeah. I mean, I thought the first round I just thought that was what we got to see the entire fight. Him jabbing, him throwing teep kicks. And I thought it was going to be like all right, this is what we're gonna get. We're gonna be talking. It's not gonna be the most exciting recap show as we're talking about, a point kickboxing match. But I'll give Ankalaev a lot of credit, being that he's a counter striker, to have to suddenly become the bull rusher, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I think it showed so much, one, of his mental fortitude. I think it showed so much of his intelligence, where he says, I can't stay on this outside. I can't get in any strength range. I can't be in the pocket. Nothing. He's going to kick me. I can't take any more kicks. And he just pressed forward and forced Jan Blachowicz on his back foot the whole time, so he couldn't turn over the kicks. He couldn't really respond. At one point, I think it was in the 4th round where they were against the cage, or there's something where he was kind of like Blachowicz just got away from him for 1 second, and before he could even establish that distance, Ankalaev was already shooting on him. It was super impressive, I thought, which is, I think, is the issue we have here. We're going to talk about the co-main event. We'll get to it in a little bit, and a lot of people upset. I am way more upset about this decision than the co-main event. Way more upset. Like, I thought we had a clear winner in this one.
I mean, I'm a little more upset about this one just because the stakes were higher, and because of something that we'll probably get to when we start talking about matchmaking. In that, I mean, if you hear a sound right now, like all of you out there in TV land, if you hear a faint scraping sound in the background, that is the sound of the universe bending Glover Teixeira over a table and giving it to him raw.
Well, that's one thing we talked about when Glover Teixeira, he didn't want to take Ankalaev. I kind of mentioned like, well, why did they have to have Ankalaev? Why couldn't it have been Jan Blachowicz and all this?
Yeah.
How bad was it for the UFC tonight? Especially the light heavyweight division, because you had a fight that you didn't really want to make to begin with. I always go back to, I was there at UFC 281, and there was a media member asked like, "Hey, what's going to be the co-main event for the fight night?" And he's like, Blachowicz and Ankalaev, and like, "Oh, that's it? You're not going to give something better?"
Which, like, fuck that dude. That's it. I mean, it may not be sexy, but it's a couple of top 5 fighters, and it's a fight that on merit there was no problem promoting it to a main event title fight when they had to. But this is rough for the UFC for sure, because deserved or not, Blachowicz has a little personality. Ankalaev has none. I mean, he showed more life on the mic tonight than he ever has in his entire career, just because he was pissed off.
And I don't blame him.
I don't blame him either, and especially because like Rogan was just like poking him with a stick. But the fight itself was kind of dreadful, and if they rematch, it's going to be dreadful again. They need to do something for a year while Prochazka meditates and convalesces in the woods with his samurai sword, and Glover Teixeira, dude.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's tough because you have a fight that wasn't very. And like you said, it wasn't a good fight. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't like a barn burner. It was okay. So you have like an okay fight. It wasn't like when we had a rematch of Davidson, Figueiredo, and Brandon Moreno. It's like, oh yeah, well, even that fight was draw was fantastic. Or going back a little while, Frankie Edgar and Gray Maynard was a draw, but that was a fantastic one. That wasn't the case. This was kind of a ho hum kind of fight. Yeah. Add in that neither one of these guys. I mean, when Jan Blachowicz is the more marketable fighter of the two, you're kind of in trouble. I mean, the Paddy Pimblett carried the eyeballs. If any casual fans wanted this, it was because of Paddy Pimblett. And then you have a rematch, which So my question is, do you have to do the rematch?
Well, if you don't do the rematch, then what are you going to just do? Pretend that Ankalaev won and book it going forward as though he did?
Vacant title with Teixeira and I mean, ultimately the best thing would happen if you find and I don't put this past the UFC. They call Blachowicz, "Hey Blachowicz, when can you return to fight?" I can return May. That's the earliest I can. Okay. And Clive, can you return in April? Yeah. Hey, Teixeira, can you return in April? Yeah. Okay. Let's fight. Have the fight. Yeah. And Blachowicz couldn't fight, and I mean he's on the shelf. Something coming up with one of these kind of things. I mean, that to me, I think that's the more marketable fight right now. Not that I don't think any of them are really that marketable.
No, none of them are marketable. It's a real big blow to the UFC that Prochazka is injured, because it would just take more exposure for him really to become a star. Like he is a lovable oddball. He is a reliably exciting fighter. He does speak English just fine. He has a unique visual hook. It's crushing that he's out, because what else is there at light heavyweight? This used to be the glamour division. It was never the deepest division. Like even during the Chuck Tito Randy days, if you go down to like who's the number 12 or number 15 light heavyweight, it's not a great fighter. But there was always star power at the top.
White.
There's not. And right now there's not the star power at the top.
No, absolutely not. I mean, you mentioned the Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell. I mean, that was Theodore Ortiz was in there, Vitor Belfort. Like all 4 of these guys were there at the same exact time. And then obviously in Pride, same thing. We're not going to go too far next. We have a lot of fights to cover, but I want to answer the question that Juice X we have on there saying, what's the chances of Ankalaev actually leaving the UFC? I don't know what his contract stance is, but I can't imagine a manager not explaining to him, saying like, this has nothing to do with the UFC. Like the UFC, this is not Dana White saying like, hey, let's make it a draw.
Yeah, they'll explain it. I'm sure they'll explain it to him. Cooler heads will prevail. He'll be back. But it does raise the question that why are Sal D'Amato and Doug Crosby getting like shipped around the country and overseas to judge fights when they are just demonstrably terrible?
Yeah, I don't know. There's no. I mean, people. The only thing I can imagine is they're connected and people are friends, and that's what it comes down to. And I can't think of any other reason why. And one thing I wish we would have. I was watching we see this in the NFL where you have a call and you know they go. Sorry, I got to plug in my. I forgot to have my battery charged. Um, you have like someone working for the NFL, the broadcast where they'll go to a former referee, and when they go to like the replay, like the guy will say what they're looking for, and it kind of that controversial play that's being replayed. You kind of okay, I understand what he's saying now.
Yeah.
I kind of wish we'd have moments where we'd have a former judge explaining why someone would score this round. What are they looking for? Or even better, if we had to have the freaking judges themselves do it, like at the press conference. Okay, we're bringing the judges in now.
It would certainly change things. I mean, then I say that, and Bellator has had Big John McCarthy on the stick for like 6 years now.
Well, he does explain a lot. Well, in fairness, he does explain a lot of the refereeing side of things.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't talk about the judging side.
Yeah.
If you had somebody explaining, I mean, it's just terrible. It's sad, and honestly, you're not calling. I think it was rubber. I think Ankalaev got robbed tonight. I really do. I thought he won. I thought he clearly won the first round. I thought he clearly won rounds 4 and 5. I think you could make an argument for run and win 3 too. Obviously, Kyle Law, he sorted as a draw. I didn't see anybody scored at 4. I didn't see how many people posting their scorecards. I didn't see anybody score at 4 Blachowicz. Yeah, not good. What about this idea? And I don't hate this idea. What if we say no? How about this? You guys both had your chance at the vacant title. You guys didn't win. We'll put 2 other guys in.
I mean, I hate that for Ankalaev, because through no fault of his own, that leaves him on the outside looking in.
So Tom Clare, it looks like he's saying Glover Teixeira versus, I'm assuming that's Jamal Hill for a vacant title in Brazil per day. I don't know if he's saying that at the press conference right now.
I think he's saying it at the press conference right now.
Wow.
What it looks like.
Okay, so what I just said, that I don't know what the chances of Ankalaev not fighting UFC again. He might have just raised it up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, okay. Good for Glover is what I'll say. You know, like if the UFC, you know, wanted to make everybody reasonably happy about this, they pay Jan and Magomed both their win bonus tonight and say, we'll, you know, rematch you guys in a few months. Or if Jan persists in the no, I didn't beat him, you should treat it like he won, then Ankalaev gets a shot at the winner.
Yeah. So Tom is saying that was announced by Dana White. The question that higher low went out said, what happened to Anthony Smith versus Jamal Hill? I'm assuming maybe Anthony Smith is hurt. Maybe they're.
I mean, he was at the desk tonight. Maybe they just were like, you know, chill. You know, we'll take care of you. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like you know what I feel like with this division. I feel like R2D2. We need R2D2 to come out there and have Princess Leia come out and say, "Help me, John Jones. You're our only hope."
Okay, let the record show that Keith came up with the first nerdy like reference of the evening. Like
everybody wants to go to heavyweight, but I'm like, light heavyweight so bad. Come back, John Jones. You're our only hope. Yeah, well then we'll have to figure out who the
Ankalaev champion.
Oh, that's what that was said on.
That's what that says. Yep.
Oh, look at it. That's how cultural Ben is. He can read.
Well, I can read Russian.
There you go. He is the man. So that really throws things out of rope because I didn't write down any names because I said, we'll just have to do the rematch. So if Glover Teixeira and Jamal Hill is fighting each other, what are you doing with these guys now?
Probably rematching them in a few months. I mean, it's ugly, but you rematch him. It's a 3-rounder this time. That'll make things different because the leg kick attrition. Not to mention they'll have had this look at each other. Now that I think about it, I'm actually more excited for a 3-round rematch of these guys than I thought I would be. Because 20 minutes ago, I was like, I never want to see those two guys in a cage together again in my whole fucking life. And now I'm like, no, dude, I want to see what adjustments they could make. I want to see what it looks like when Magomed Ankalaev has to go back to the drawing board. Because I talked on the preview about how he's dropped a few rounds in his UFC career, but it's just because he was so buttoned down that he left rounds closer than they needed to be. This is the first time we saw somebody just flat out take rounds off him and beat him.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, like the first time he's ever had to go back to the drawing board with anything more than, well, do that same thing just a little harder.
Yeah, my biggest upset is we don't pat our backs often, but I wanted to do that. Hey, you guys remember when we first started doing this and before it was cool to say Ankalaev was going to win the title? Yeah, we were doing that. We didn't get to do that tonight. I also know, like, if we get a good match at light heavyweight, do we have to like give the MMA gods a sacrifice? Do we have to have like Figueiredo Moreno 5? You know, is that what we're gonna have to do?
Caitlin Chikagian gets another title shot at flyweight.
Oh God. Anything else you want to say about this fight?
No.
All right. I don't know if he's the second biggest, but he might be the second biggest MMA star in the UFC right now and probably the world. Paddy Pimblett took on Jared Gordon. Let me ask you a question: Is Paddy Pimblett like is it Conor then him, or is it somebody else on Nate?
It might, but I mean, Conor doesn't count anymore. I'm only counting people that like I consider active fighters.
So then, is he number one?
Weird as it sounds. I mean, who else would it be right now? Like,
all right, so Paddy Pimblett
is.
Yeah, I think if we're not counting Conor, I agree with you. Paddy Pimblett won a unanimous decision over Jared Gordon, where it seems like everybody on earth is calling robbery. I want to ask you a question, but I know this is not fair. If this wasn't Paddy Pimblett and we threw in just ho-hum, whatever guy you want to throw in, Vince Pichel.
Okay.
Would people be throwing out the word robbery right now?
Yes, but it would be forgotten quicker.
Okay.
Because it would just be like, oh, well, there's our one randomly weird, horrible scorecard per month, and I wouldn't think about it again until the next time one of those guys fought, and I'd be like, oh, yeah, that was that one. But because there was such an obvious reason for this one, whether you're conspiracy-minded enough to to think that there's actual fuckery going on, or it just happens to coincide with what works out really, really well for the UFC. This one, yeah, it gets a little more juice because of that, but
yeah. Shout out to my buddy. Shout out to I'm assuming Jesse's a male, but it could be a female. Yeah, that was pretty funny. Patty screaming out, "Fight of the night!" I'm like, the entire third round, nothing happened.
Seriously,
that was pretty funny. So I'm gonna give you my scorecard, and then I'm gonna piss off everybody.
Go for it.
All right. Well, actually, no. You know what? I'll let you give me your scorecard first. Like, how did you score the fight?
I scored it 30-27 for Gordon.
Okay, and I'm okay with it. I scored a 29-28 for Gordon. Okay. I gave Paddy Pimblett the second round.
That's one that I could definitely see going either way.
Sure. But I'm gonna say something really controversial. I'm gonna piss you off. I thought all 3 rounds were really freaking close. I think the most decisive round probably for Gordon was the first. Yeah. But I don't like Paddy beat him in volume. I think the commentary team was overselling the left hook a little bit. Like he was landing it, but Paddy was landing some hard shots. And that said, my thing is, if people are going to score the third round for Gordon, and I actually did score the third round for Gordon because I don't think did Paddy steal the round with little elbows? Did his brief back take and a little pot shots? Is that enough to win the round? It could have. Like, I'm okay with anybody who scored the third round for Paddy Pimblett. I'm okay with anybody. I didn't see anybody. I'm sure there's people out there somewhere, but I didn't see anybody who scored it for Paddy Pimblett.
There was one media member who scored it for Pimblett. Dan Urban of Couchside Judges. I don't know him personally, but someone needs to tell him that he is parked in Drake Riggs' spot.
That's Drake's other account.
But no, it was something like 22-1 for Gordon.
But like I'm one of the ones that scored it for Gordon, and if I watch that tomorrow, I might score it for Paddy. And I'll tell you this: don't yell this is a robbery, and don't yell Jared Gordon like definitely won the third round, but then like don't say anything about Sabatello and all his control the day before. Like don't get all high because you want the loudmouth to lose. Like do it both ways. No, again, I scored it for Gordon tonight. I scored it for Stotts yesterday.
Yeah,
but I don't think it was terrible. I don't think it was a terrible decision. I thought all 3 rounds were close. I thought the third round was close. I thought pressing someone against the cage, holding on to 2 legs, like in that double position where you're just kind of almost resting underneath your opponent and kind of getting a little bit of elbows here and there, then lose the position and get your back take. Like, yeah, I scored you that round, but you also gave the opportunity to get that round stolen.
Yeah, I mean, the third round was kind of a nothing round, but I still think the second round is the only one I can really justify giving to Pimblett, but maybe I'll feel different on a rewatch. I don't know, man. Just,
I don't know why the fight wasn't close. Paddy clearly won the first 2 rounds, then he was just coasted in the third round.
Dude, I mean, I'm going to choose to believe that he doesn't really believe that and he's just saying it for effect, which, dude, it had the desired effect.
Yeah.
Whew.
So I want to say something else. The best thing that would have happened to the UFC is if Paddy blew the doors off of Jared Gordon, won spectacularly, flying armbar or big knockout or something like that. That would have been the best thing. I think this is the second best thing that happened to the UFC, and I'll tell you why. The ones who like Paddy are satisfied because they won, and the people who hate Paddy got even more ammunition now. Even more fuel, the reasons to hate him.
Oh, for sure. Because
I think this was good for the UFC.
If he had been gracious and been like, hey, I really didn't put my stamp on this fight, I've got things to go back to I've got to go back to the gym and really, figure out what went wrong here. That'd be one thing. But for him to go yeah, I won easy. Yeah, it's a total troll job. And it worked. It worked. People are gonna get mad, and the ones that are already mad are gonna stay mad. And again, Paddy is gonna keep being. I think he's gonna be just the most popular rising star in the sport until either he is completely exposed, or he gets far enough that again he gets that kind of popularity that's no longer dependent on him winning every fight.
Yeah, and which he might be on that way. Or he might be there already. He really might be. You said that until he exposed, there is. I mean, we were saying this on the breakdowns for a while. I know what's going to happen is that most of the people in the chat, they're all fair people. They listen to what I'm saying. Yeah. I freaking scored it for Gordon. But you get the one person who doesn't really listen to the whole thing will comment in keeps the shill for Paddy Pimblett, except for you ignore that I actually picked against Pimblett in his first fight. I've been saying for a while he'll never be a UFC champion. He's a grappler who's not a good offensive wrestler. There's always, if you can't get the fight to the ground, I don't care how good your submission is. You have to find a way to get the fight to the ground. He's a wild brawler he's got to have a hell of a chin. He does not get enough credit. He got landed. There were some big shots that he walked right through him. I give him a lot of credit for that. But the reason why we know he has a good chin is because his defense is terrible. He pulls his punches, he pulls his head back, and keeps his chin high, and he gets cracked. There's a lot of things to expose. But that said, if you just look at the numbers of this fight, he landed more significant strikes in the second and third round than Gordon did. The total strikes was 100-97.
Mm-hmm.
There was one submission attempt for Paddy, 0 for Gordon. Like, again, I scored it for Gordon, but like people saying this is a robbery, it's not a robbery. And I know robberies.
Again, we are like 24 hours removed from Sabatello versus Stotts, and one of the worst scorecards you will ever see.
Oh, the 50-40.
Yeah, the 50-45 for Sabatello.
Yeah, I can't remember. I remember there was one. I think it was the third round. There was like, Stotts clearly won that round. I think it was the third round.
I kept on waiting and hoping today that it would turn out that the scorecard had just been filled out wrong. Or like transcribed wrong, and it was 50-45 Stotts, which I wouldn't have agreed with that either, but it was more defensible.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. What do we do with Paddy now? I mean, he's got another one in the UFC. He just won a co-main event. I think he's headlining his next card.
Okay, you got two choices. If you just want to keep the hype train running, you give him Clay Guida. And honestly, Clay Guida might beat him.
Clay Guida might really, he might.
If you're like, okay, let's see what this kid's really got, you give him the winner of Drew Dober and Bobby Green next week.
Oh God, you really want to see him get knocked out, don't you?
I don't. If it's me, and you know me, I'm normally Mr. Meritocracy. I'm giving him Clay Guida. Like, let him grab some name value, and that's assuming you can't get Joe Lozon to take one more fight. Like, give him one of those guys. Give him Jim Miller. Give him,
Jim Miller. Jim Miller's still too crafty. So, I'm giving Paddy a fight. I'm putting him in England. I'm having a main event, and I'm glad that RC Kim just threw this name out there. I had 4 guys, with one saying, if I'm going down the calling order, this is my last one. And dude, you knocked him out of the box. It was first person I called Joe Lozon, second person I called Clay Guida, third person I called Michael Johnson, and the fourth person I call is Jim Miller. And at that point, if I'm Dana White and all 4 of them say no, I start calling them out, saying, "Oh, yeah, what do you want me to do with this guy? I try to get in test for him. I try to give him, some of the biggest veterans there. I try to give him legends, but they don't want to fight him. And everyone's scared to fight this kid, And I start saying, Clay Guida, who's fought everybody, for some reason they're scared. I can't find people to fight him. That's what I would do. Luke Wilson mentioned Donald Cerrone. If Donald Cerrone wasn't retired, that'd be number one. That would make sense. He could sell it. So I'm still doing that. I'm trying to get him wins. That's what I'm doing if I'm the UFC.
Dev Goes Fishing says Jim Miller cooks Paddy.
He
not
will.
Not in a 5-round fight. I don't trust Miller's gas tank. So if they're headlining a fight night, like, Miller's gonna flag and Paddy's gonna tap him out late.
Of the 5 guys, that's the one I had dead last because that's the biggest threat. And he also wouldn't sell it as much. Like Clay Guida in a stare down with Paddy Pimblett, like that's gonna sell. That's gonna get people excited.
Yeah.
Even though most people, the hardcores understand that Clay Guida is a shell himself. The casuals don't. Moving on.
Okay, moving on.
Okay.
If you're watching this right now, think of how frustrated you are and what a disappointment the end of this card was after starting with such promise, and now imagine that Alex Morono is a friend of yours.
Oh, yeah. I feel like this card is, and spoiler to those who haven't watched it yet, to me this is like Game of Thrones, where it was like, oh, this is fantastic. This might be the best show ever. And then like that last season came and you're like, yeah, thanks for ruining the show. Like I try to forget that the last season happened. Yeah. Santiago Ponce took on a late notice Alex Morono with a fought at 180 pounds. Santiago Ponce won by 3rd round knockout. It was looking fantastic for your boy, Ben. He was quick. He was tagging him. He's been on this run, and not only someone were like, all right, the ghost of Donald Cerrone, but I mean, his last fight against Matt Summersberger, he looked so quick and fast. He looked again this one. Everything was going right until the one thing Ponzinibbio – there's 2 things Ponzinibbio still has. I think Ponzinibbio is really in the decline. He looks like a fighter that's pretty close to being shot. Mm-hmm. He looks much slower, but he still has insane toughness, and he still has power.
Yes.
and he just landed a perfect one of those perfect ones where you turn your whole shoulder so you really what you're not supposed to do, but when you land it, you really telegraph your shot, but when you land, it is. Did you have any? First of all, did you have any? I know it seemed like Safe Saud and Alex Moreno was upset with the stoppage. I wasn't, but were you upset with the stoppage?
No. I mean, I thought it was okay, and that was before I saw how bad that first punch. I mean, Morono's jaw was like literally jacked, and I don't think his jaw was broken. I mean, I texted him. I haven't heard back yet, but I assumed it just hit a nerve. So like, yeah, his eyes were googly. Like, dude, I was fine with the stoppage. Like, Safe can be mad. Alex will watch the tape, and he's an honest enough guy that he'll go, okay, I want to grow up to know my kids.
Dana's apparently Moreno is getting an a win bonus. So that's cool for taking a shot in this way, and he was winning and kind of saving the day as much as he can. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Safe was mad, but like Safe was loud the whole night. I just imagine when I listen to Safe Saud, I'm like, what would he do if he wasn't like an MMA coach? Like imagine, imagine him as like a psychologist or something, or a shrink, and you go into him and you lay down on the couch and you're like, oh, I'm just not happy with my job and my marriage. Him just saying, get up, get to work. Like just yelling at you.
It's interesting because it's something that's developed in him over the last few years. Like when Fortis first kind of really started cropping up, 5-6 years ago, he had much more of like the Greg Jackson, like Yoda, like Zen master type thing, and he's become more of the Ray Longo. Like I'm gonna yell in your face and give you like a half serious, half almost humorous, like rah talk. Like I love the guy. I think Safe is great.
I love him. Alan McDonald said he could be a motivational speaker. Like he should make a DVD or or one of those ones where they have like this inspirational music that builds up as it's going. As he's talking, the song gets more inspirational, and he's saying things like "Don't quit, don't give up," and I can listen to it while I'm like jogging and stuff. As I'm doing on my second lap around. Don't give up. One step forward.
Opinions differ on Mr. Saud, obviously. High or low, not a fan. Alan is. That's okay. We can all agree to disagree here. And as Keith said on the preview, it's all love.
Yeah. Speaking of not running on the track, Darren Till and Dricus du Plessis, I don't know. That wasn't the best transition. Dricus du Plessis won by third round submission. I'm going to say this and tell me if I'm being too harsh and not harsh enough. Darren Till is horrendous on the ground. I actually think he's gotten worse over the years, if that's possible. He was telling a story about him going to, I think they said Thailand or some. I can't remember what they said. I think it was Thailand, and he ran into like a Russian wrestler, but he was like an amateur fighter who was killing him on the ground.
Yeah, I heard that.
Did anybody confirm that story? Like, because I have a feeling that the guy wasn't like an amateur. Like, I feel like it was like the kid was his first name was like Victor, and he was in the like kids class, and so it's the kids class kid turned into a Russian wrestler.
Well, if he ran into a Russian of any kind, I assume he just fell over. Since Dricus du Plessis got like 15 takedowns that, again, it's the kind of takedown that doesn't even have a name. He just sort of fell into him and they both fell over. Like Till has regressed so badly. Like, and I know he had an ACL injury. Some fighters, some athletes in any sport never come back the same from that. It sounded like he might have hurt his other knee tonight, but he is one of the more shot 29-year-olds I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like in terms of his physical gifts seem to be abandoning him and his skill set seems to be regressing. And even at his best, I mean, Jay asked me this, on my other podcast. He's like, what is Darren Till good at?
I think he's a power striker. I think he's got power in his hands. I think he's pretty quick. I think he's pretty sharp striker. The problem is he can't let his hands go because he's getting taken down. And du Plessis did pretty much the same thing Ankalaev did in the 4th or 5th round. Like, I'm not gonna give you any space. The times he kind of slowed himself down Till was having success. Uh, Dev says fainting. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. But he's good at fainting. Uh, there was one moment where he was in a whizzer.
Yeah.
And he didn't know how to use it. He
No.
didn't know, like, get to the side,
he had the whizzer
skip into him.
And he kind of went the wrong way with it, and Dricus just pancaked him.
Yeah, he's just. One thing I'll say about Duplessis, and I've never been high. I think I've picked against him almost every fight. I'm not sure if that's true or not, and he keeps winning. I'm still not sold on him. I mean, he's intelligent. I feel like he's a guy that's really. He puts himself in the best. He reminds me of like a poor man's version of Jack Hermanson. What I mean by that is, like, when you watch Jack Hermanson, there's nothing that like jumps off the page with you as skill, but he studies the guys. He knows, okay, this is where we get. That's where I'm going to go at. That's how I feel with Duplessis. I just feel like there's so many holes in this guy's game.
And it's 185, so it's not like we're talking about like 145, but he has an extravagantly bad gas tank. He was so, like, he punched himself out so hard that first round. I mean, I don't even know. Okay, he might be decently intelligent in terms of preparation, but in fight, I think his fight IQ is a little bit questionable. I mean, he reminds me of a 185-pound Nikita Krylov. Like, good offensive tools all around, questionable fight IQ, bad gas tank.
Okay, I'll say this: he definitely slowed down, and I almost give him a pass on that a little bit because he was trying to finish fight. And when you're in a position when you can keep punching, and the referee's saying like keep moving, keep action, or the fight's gonna be stopped, like I get that. Like you're so close to stoppage, like go for it. I give him credit in the third round because it's 1-1 heading into the third round. He's got to get a takedown, and he found a way to dig deep and get that takedown. And honestly, when he took Darren Till, and I'm sure there's an injury in there and everything, but he mentally broke Till. Like, I felt when he took Till down and went right to the mount, Till gave up.
Yeah,
I mean, he gave up his back right away. But as soon as he got his hand underneath it wasn't even underneath the throat; it was on the chin. And again, I understand that you can crush a guy's face; it really hurts. But it wasn't even like, okay, let him crush my face a little bit. He was tapping quick.
Yeah. Agreed. And tonight was kind of the night of exhausted face cranks being announced as rear naked chokes by Bruce Buffer.
Oh, you announced that?
There were two of them. Yeah.
So this is one of the fights I got wrong. I got this fight wrong.
We both, I mean, neither of us picked the Ponzinibbio versus Morona fight because it came up so last minute. But we both went 9-2-1.
No.
Okay. Well, then I got that. I would have gotten that one wrong. But for the
Listen,
fights
I picked Pons in somebody's comment on the YouTube, but if Morona won, I was not counting it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because no film study, that doesn't count.
Yeah. So I mean,
I got two wrong.
Yeah, we were both 9-2-1. You got Dawkins and Till wrong. I got Dawkins and Dalcha wrong.
Yeah, both mine were really bad.
Dude,
yeah.
I mean, we'll get to them. We'll get to them.
The fight that was supposed to be the best fight of the night was really a one-sided shellacking. Is Bryce Mitchell took on Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria looked absolutely amazing. He's so well-rounded. He's fast. He's accurate. I mean, I love that he goes to the body. He gets a little wild, but man, to dominate Bryce Mitchell on the ground like he did. I mean, he hit him with a pancake. He pancaked him. That was beautiful. And then finishes out with a head-on choke. He looked amazing. Let me ask you this question, and I might be living in the moment. Is Ilia Topuria the biggest threat to Alex Volkanovski in the entire division?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Because Topuria is a better. Yeah, I don't think I'd pick him either, but he's got most of the same tools that Movsar Evloev does, but he's a better boxer with more power.
Yeah. I mean, he looked fin. Imagine what he would have done to Paddy. And, two different weight classes, and Paddy's so much bigger than him.
Dude,
So
he
much bigger.
destroyed Jai Herbert a few months ago.
Huge too.
Who's even bigger than Paddy? Like Jai Herbert's like 6'1".
But oh
It
my
didn't
god,
matter.
could you imagine what he have done? Like, dude, UFC do not make that matchup unless Patty does something really crazy. I mean, he'll give him a worse beatdown than Ariel Helwani just gave him this week. Shout out to Ariel. He was always nice to me. I know a lot of people hate him, but he was always very nice to me. The 2 times I met him, he was very nice. All right, so I mean, to me, it was such a statement by Topuria. I think he's going to be cruising way up. I don't know where he is in our rankings right now, Sherdog, but both me and you are very active in the rankings, and I want to be calling him to go way up. What do you want to do next with this guy? Because with Alex Volkanovski fighting out of the division's kind of in this standstill. You have 2 guys fighting for the interim, but when they win, they move on to possibly Volkanovski or whatever they want to do. So it kind of puts a pause on the division. So what do you want to do with him?
Well, if you think that Alexander Volkanovski is going to be up at lightweight long enough that the interim winner is going to need to defend, that's got to be Arnold Allen.
Okay.
So you can either give Topuria the loser of Yair versus Josh Emmett, or you can just give him Max Holloway.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't like smash him and Evloev into each other before you have to. Like, why do that? You know,
yeah,
so
we should just get Max Holloway to leave the division. Just move on. Move up to light heavyweight. Lightweight. Excuse me, lightweight.
I'll give you $1 million to go to PFL.
No shit. No shit.
Like, dude, I love Brendan Loughnane. It was good to see him in Till's corner. It was cool to see Anik actually call his name since he's a walking embarrassment to Dana White. But how bad would Max Holloway destroy Brendan Loughnane?
Yeah, I mean, you'd assume he would.
It looked like the Cater fight.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a good call. I wrote down Arnold Allen that was me assuming that Volkanovski comes back. The winner of Emmett and Rodriguez takes on Volkanovski.
Then yeah, do that.
That's what I would do. I really don't. I don't want Max Holloway taking out people in the division that he really can't. Now, if Volkanovski moves on, he wins the title or just says, "Hey, I'm taking a weight cut and I'm moving on. I'm staying out of the division. I'm no longer coming to featherweight." Then fine. To me, Holloway's right back to the next divisions wide open again. But if Volkanovski is actually going to defend both titles if he wins or just come back if he loses, then I'd rather see Volkanovski. I'd rather see Holloway lead the division. But the guy lost to him 3 times now. And to me, why would you want to have him pick off contenders? And especially when you have a champion who's fought a lot of the top guys in the division, where you're looking for title challenges and he hasn't already fought. And not only did he fought them, he smoked them.
Yeah. Agree. And it would be the time to do Topuria versus Allen. Like, I'm always of the mind that don't smash your undefeated up-and-comers together until it's at least 4 title shot. And it would absolutely be. Yeah. And that'd be a hell of a fight, too.
Yeah. What about Bryce Mitchell? What'd you do with him?
Mitchell, I mean, this coming weekend, Julian Erosa and Alex Caceres are fighting. Give him, like, the winner of that. He's already fought Erosa, but that was back in Cage Warriors. It was many years ago. Erosa is a much improved fighter since then. And be a guaranteed exciting fight with either guy, really. Like, Mitchell versus Erosa or Caceres would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him like taking on a guy like Sadiq Yusuf on his way up. Or if you want to do the other way, you want to go with like the aging guy who's already lost to Volkanovski. So, Korean Zombie and I know they're coming back to South Korea. Imagine Bryce Mitchell going over to South Korea. Who knows what he's going to say to offend people over there.
And RC Kim mentions that Korean Zombie is already kind of semi-retired and got other income streams there in Korea. And I believe that RC is Korean living in Japan, so he would know more than we do. Like, let us know what you're thinking there, RC. But yeah, if they can pull out Korean Zombie for a card in Seoul or something, hell yeah. Oh,
So there's the main card. Let's move on to the prelims. The talk of the prelims, and probably one of the if it wasn't the co-main event in the main event being so crazy, probably got the most headlines. It's still probably one of the most headlines. Raul Rojas took on Jay Perrin. The big thing about Raul Rojas, he's 18 years old. He's the youngest competitor in the history of the UFC. He's still in high school, which is, to me, I have mixed feelings about that. He went out there and absolutely whitewashed Jay Perrin. Took him down, lifted him with like a high crotch up to the sky, slammed him, took his back. I believe he got a rear naked choke. Or
It was another one of the crank ones, yeah.
Okay, so he just cranked him. Listen, I'm going to give this guy a lot of credit. He's fucking 18, guys.
Yep.
The amount of people I saw on Twitter that was hating on this guy, like wanting him to lose. No, there was a whole bunch of people going crazy. Tons. But like even if there's like 10% of people like wanting him to lose. Now, if you're friends with Jay Perrin or you're from New England or something and you want to root for Jay Perrin, fine. But you're like not rooting against this guy, but I'm rooting for this guy. Like, okay, cool. But the people who want to see someone like that fail, you want to watch an 18-year-old kid get beat up? Like that's what you want to watch? That just whatever. That says more about you than it does about him.
He looks like somebody typed into one of those AI drawing apps, like Bigfoot Silva and a piece of broccoli. But aside from that, there's nothing to hate about the guy.
No. He's been training MMA for like 14 years now. Now I know what people say, and I didn't see this, but I know like some assholes are gonna say something like this, like, yeah, he's 18. Oh, yeah, that's so amazing. Yeah, those 18-year-olds storming the beaches of Normandy. Like, yes, okay. That's more impressive. Those 14-year-olds fighting the Revolution War. Yes, that's more impressive. But in our closed MMA world, this is fucking impressive.
It is.
This is insane. So I want to say this. He's talking about the titles, like the UFC, and Joe Rogan kind of talked about this on the broadcast, how if you're an upcoming prospect, you could have 7-8 wins and you get thrown to the walls. I mean, there was people upset, when a guy, like some people were upset with Jay Perrin, like he should have a higher one than Jay Perrin. Like, slow it down. Like this guy has star material all over him. He's probably 7 or 8 years away from his prime. We can slow roll this guy. I mean, I know he wants to win the title before he's 20, which is insanity and all this. Just slow him down. Like slow it down. If Jay Perrin is the 100th best bantamweight in the world, then give him the 95th best. Like, don't rush this guy.
Agreed. And Luke brings up a point that certainly occurred to me when Rosas was mentioned for the Contender Series. I do think he has a different feeling than Chase Hooper. Like, while he's not grown into whatever he's going to be when he's 28, like for one thing, he's not going to be a bantamweight by the time he's 28. He is in much more of a man's body at this point than Hooper was. Like Hooper was and kind of remains physically weak for his division. Rosas does not have that problem. Like he's been bodying people. Like he's a physically strong dude for the weight class. And assuming he gets some better striking fundamentals, he's probably gonna like start developing some power as things come along.
Yeah.
It's too early, dude. It's too early to tell if he's going to be a top 15 fighter at some point or he's going to be out of the UFC in 18 months. But I do feel better about him than like the Chase Hoopers of the world. Or even like the Sage Northcutts, where I strongly suspected he was never really going to develop a ground game. And his ceiling was going to come as soon as he ran into anybody who would take advantage of that.
It's funny. You're saying this, and Dev was saying this in the comments about him just pairing so strong. Yeah, I mean, the way he lifted up Perrin was so impressive. But he's 18. He's not even into his man muscles yet. This is still a kid. Really impressive. I mean, I really think that this season's of the Contender Series is going to go down as one of like most historic, between Rojas, bringing in Bo Nickel, like from the same season, like just a great season of the Dana White's Contender Series. So that said, I know I'm sorry. True Shot said that Perrin is ranked 63rd at bantamweight. I don't know where he's getting those rankings. I'm assuming maybe
Not Topology.
Topology or Fight Matrix or something like that. The deeper they go down, I mean, they literally have Anthony Rumble Johnson ranks, so don't go too much into their rankings. But I'm not going after True Shot for that.
No,
what do you want to do with them? I wrote down a name. Tell me what you think. I'll go with Brandon Davis.
I'm sorry, give me that one again.
Brandon Davis.
I like Brandon Davis just fine. I was thinking the winner of Journey Newson and Sergey Morozov next week.
Okay.
Both guys that are around 500 in the UFC. Whoever wins will be over 500 and, nowhere near ranked. Like, if you mapped it out, they'd probably be in the 25 to 30 range.
Yeah, the reason why I want Brandon Davis is he's not good, but he does have a personality. He'll talk a little bit. So you can kind of like make it seem like a bigger fight than it actually is. You can trick some people.
Yeah, Perrin tried. Like, he said all the right things. Yeah,
the Santa Claus line was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, it was funny.
Yeah.
They actually did pick the right. Like, if you've ever seen Jay Perrin, that was actually like tuned down version of Jay Perrin. Like, I seen him in the regional scenes cutting some killer promos. So. All right. I mean, the future's really bright with this kid. Before that, Jairzinho Rozenstruik take on Chris Daukaus. It was 20 seconds. This build up to this is longer than the actual fight. Jairzinho Rozenstruik knock out Chris Daukaus, hurt him with a jab, and then finished off with power shots. Daukaus had a nice run, but he's done. Like, he's done. He looks like shit. And not even does he like look shit in there. Like, he looks like shit. Like, he looked flabby. He put on some not good weight.
Yeah, he peaked going into the Lewis fight. Like, he looked physically the best he had. He was coming off like a bunch of good wins. And I think that was like, I think 1 or 2 fights after he like left the police force and devoted himself full time. That was his high water mark. And I think it's probably been hard for him to get the motivation up for these receding fights as he goes along. Sometimes when we do the previews, and then we come back around and look at the results, I'll say, okay, I got the outcome right, but I got the complexion of the fight wrong. Here, I got the complexion of the fight right, and I got the outcome wrong. Because I said, Jairzinho is going to come out like a house on fire, but I think Daukaus will be able to survive it. And I was wrong about that. But, that was...
Yeah, that was a bad... We both picked them, so shout out to 1 foot out the door. I kind of give us some shit about... Imagine picking Daukaus for the way. Yeah, it's funny because Daukaus did an interview, and he's like, yeah, it'd be stupid of me to like stand up and bang with Rozenstruik. I'm really going to probably look to get this fight to the ground. And first thing he does is this wild haymaker, like runs across the cage and throws this wild haymaker that Jairzinho's just moved out of the way and they just smashed him with that jab.
I mean, he did get the fight to the ground within the first 30 seconds.
Oh, maybe I misinterpreted what he was saying. There is good news to Daukaus, and I tweeted this out, is every police force is really short-handed right now, so everyone's hiring. So
wonderful.
He probably get a job again pretty quickly.
I bet Philly would take him right back. I don't know if he like actually worked for the Philadelphia City police department. I don't know if it's like here in Texas where I have like 3 overlapping police departments like all over me.
He can come to Rhode Island. He can put my name down as a reference if he wants. I'll hang out with Chris Daukaus.
Awesome.
I mean, yeah. What we could do with Rozenstruik? Like, he's headlined some things, so he's still a nice name. Obviously, when good Rozenstruik shows up like this and he can blast the guy out in seconds, it gets a little exciting. I still think this says a little bit more about Daukaus than it says about Rozenstruik, but I'm intrigued.
I mean, I was looking up for sure, like not a lateral move, but up. Either Tai Tuivasa, who just barely lost and is kind of like he's probably hit his ceiling, but all you want out of him now is banger fights where at least 2/3 of the time he's drinking beer out of a shoe at the end. Or if the UFC decides to remake Lewis and Spivak, if he wants to wait for the winner of that, or the loser, just one of those 2 guys, that'd be fine too. Like Lewis versus Rozenstruik could be a fun fight. Tuivasa versus Rozenstruik could be fun.
Yeah, I wrote down Lewis just because I think that'd be fun. I don't want to see him fight Spivak. Spivak just gonna close the distance, throw him on his head and submit him.
Yeah.
So give me him and Derek Lewis throwing big haymakers at each other.
Sounds good.
Before that, Edmund Shabazian made his long return, took on Dolce Lingambula. Edmund Shabazian won by second round TKO. I'm going to say something. So he looked much better than we last saw him. The big thing was that he was sharp, he was controlled, didn't gas. Fairness, wasn't the highest pace fight, but that's smart. He changed teams. It's always good when you leave Edmund Shabazian and go to Extreme Couture. Probably the biggest, the biggest change from negative to a positive you could do. But one thing I'll say, if Edmund Shabazian is 25, if this was his UFC debut, I think we'd be going crazy for him right now.
We would. I mean, we were going crazy for him after his real UFC debut.
Yeah.
And I completely agree. And it's in part due to the UFC roster expanding the way it has, like pulling in fighters that probably would have gotten more seasoning on their regional scenes in years past. Maybe not in his case because there was a Ronda Rousey connection, but no, I agree. And he's early enough that a fresh start might actually do him some good. He seemed to have solved some of the problems that led to that 3-fight losing streak. I'm hesitant to give him too much credit for beating Dolce. I mean, Boss put it like I'm trying not to overrate him, but to say that, okay, yeah, he had a little more measured pace, better gas tank. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but what fun is that, Ben? There's no fun to not overrate him. It's more fun to go, oh my God, you see what he is? He's only 25 years old. He's a killing machine. No more. Edmund was keeping him down all these years. Now he's,
I mean, dude, he fought 3 straight top 10 fighters, top 5 in a couple. Like Brunson was probably top 5, and then takes a step. Like as here, let me give credit where credit is due. Luke Wilson, it's nuts to go from Imavov, top 15 fighter, if not top 10, to Dolce Lungiambula. Like, that's rough.
Yeah, that's a good call. Anything else you want to say before we move on?
Nope. I don't think I have anything else.
All right. Some weird grud match went down with Joaquin Buckley and Chris Curtis, with Chris Curtis getting a second round KO. Beautiful. Landed a beautiful shot. I'll say this. So Chris Curtis was a guy that I've seen a lot. I mean, anybody who's ever been to any regionals fights probably rated to Chris Curtis at some time. I really like the guy. When I saw him in the regional scene, I didn't think he was a high level UFC talent. I did think he was UFC talent. I thought he'd be a, win one, win one, lose two, almost get the cut list, not get the cut list, get on the cut list, not get cut. Like one of these kind of like many, many guys. I mean, he's been on a freaking run. He's probably just outside of our Sherdog, worldwide rankings at top 15 middleweights. That said, and he landed a beautiful shot. This is one of the best ones of his career. I'm worried about the way he fights. What I mean by that is he was clearly the sharper guy. When he was letting his hands go tonight, he was piecing up Buckley. The problem is he wasn't matching his output at all. He was letting Buckley throw 3-4 punches every time he threw one. He'd throw one punch, Buckley would throw a combination. And he's so defensive minded that he's in this fight, and not all fight, but in this fight, he kind of made it. He limited his chance of winning, and it really limited it down to like he's gonna have to land the perfect, beautiful one shot, put him out.
Yeah,
shot. He did, which is fantastic. But moving forward, like I'm concerned. Like this is actually, he's getting that like that Jorge Masvidal earlier, that Bobby Green, where I'm not getting hurt, so I'm not losing.
Yes.
And that's concerning to me. But he's on a nice freaking run.
He's on a great run. And I mean, I put Dev's comment up here, and he and I were talking about it during the fights. It is the veteran thing. Like, he has been through so many fights. I mean, the dude has probably fought on dirt floors as well as fighting in like under the brightest lights, the sport can provide. Nothing phases them. Nothing flaps them. It's very much the Masvidal or Green thing, where they're calm almost to a fault and sometimes lack a sense of urgency.
Yeah, and I'm worried that he's going to give away rounds. We talked about Ankalaev in the main event, kind of like same thing where he's gonna be ahead, like be better, but just not pull the trigger and kind of coast. Michael Johnson kind of type thing. That said, what do you want to do with him? Like he's on a run, so I mean, but he's what, like 35 or something like that. So it's not like you can't get too excited about the guy.
Having said that, it's 185, so the division is wide open, and you can do okay there in your mid to late 30s. I like giving him the winner of Imavov and Gastelum, who are fighting in about 4 weeks.
Okay. So I went with even though he's not the prospect, like he's a new guy in the division, I'm looking at him as not the prospect. I'm looking at him as the veteran who's going to be the test for the prospect. So I'm giving him Bohayo, who's undefeated in the UFC, kind of deserves a big shot. I think it's a good technical matchup between these two. Good contrasting styles. That's a matchup I would do.
And considering how easily he was fighting off Rodolfo Vieira's takedown attempts and kind of made Rodolfo just deal with him on the feet, yeah, I like that. Bohayo, I think, is a little more athletic than Vieira. Doesn't have the straight horsepower.
No, he's a lot bigger. He's big too.
He's big and would be willing to engage on the feet. And I mean, Curtis is making a run out of schooling bigger guys than him on the feet. I like it.
Before that, speaking of big guys, Alex Hernandez decided to no longer be big and move down to featherweight, took on Billy Quarantillo in his featherweight debut. We had a really good night, I think, in our picks overall, but we had some really bad ones, but we also had ones that we picked perfect, and this is the one we picked perfect.
Dunk.
Like,
yeah,
Hernandez might come out early, might come out throwing meat, but Quarantillo's going to weather a storm. He's going to have a moment. It was about halfway through the fight, and he just turned it on, and Hernandez, he was going to the body, he was jabbing him, forced him on his back foot, and he just took over. It was a thing of beauty. Quarantillo is not the guy you want to face when you're trying to test out how it's going to be in another division. You can't really. I felt like it's like a baby get thrown into water and they have to like go crazy right away. Like, didn't slowly dip their toe in the water. No, they just pushed him right in the deep end, and good luck.
Yep, Quarantillo, just not the guy that you want to do that against. I'll give Hernandez this. It looks as though he did the weight class change the right way.
Yeah.
Like I said before, if you've ever been face to face with him, like, he doesn't look like a guy who could have made 145, but he really just retooled his body. He didn't look sucked out. And while he gassed out after about 7 minutes, he always gasses out after about 7 minutes. The bigger problem is that he wilted too. Like, there are people that get tired. Well, dude, look no further than Dricus Du Plessis. Du Plessis was tired after 7 minutes,
but he found a way.
He found a way, survived the second round, and kind of got a second wind in the third when like Till wasn't able to put it on him anymore. Hernandez doesn't have that.
Ankalaev, not that it was a cardio thing, but he found a way to get past the leg kicks with mindset. I don't totally agree with. I agree with the premise that Kyle Lahi said, where he said he thought it'd be better for Hernandez to go up to 170 than it is to drop down to 145. I think he would be too small because he's a short guy, so I think he'd be too small for 170. But like, I don't think he needed to change his weight class. So I do generally agree with the statement. Like, he needs to stay at 155. Go back to 155. You are what you are. You're a mid card guy. Yeah, that's what you are. Like,
yeah, he's a mid card guy.
You're gonna lose one. You're gonna win one. You're gonna lose one.
And I mean, he has the physical tools that it looks like he should develop into a better fighter than he turned into. But if he sticks around the UFC for 20 fights and ends up around 500 and picks up a few bonus checks, you know what? That makes you Josh Berkman. That's not the worst thing in the world to be.
Yeah. Before that, TJ Brown took on Eric Silva. I think Brown won by third round submission. I thought Eric Silva looked really bad.
Eric Silva, well, he literally looked bad. He looked like a cross between Michael Chiesa and an Oompa Loompa. Like, just like, if you got that hair, you got to do something with it. Yeah, that was.
Well, he looked like, not that this guy looks bad, but he fought like the other Eric Silva, where it got hard and it was like, all right, it just got hard and it went from worse to worse to worse. And the funny thing, I feel like both these guys are very similar styles in the sense of they're guys who want to grapple, but they're kind of sloppy. They give chances. They get chances to get reversed and to escape, and they ride too high in the backs and all this. And when you're still getting beat to positions by TJ Brown, who's giving you every opportunity to have your moments, it was not. I have a feeling that Eric Silva is going to be one of these guys. 0-3, 0-4. See you later.
Yeah, I mean, I turned the sound on for this fight because I wanted specifically to hear how the UFC booth dealt with the fact that he had been splitting his last couple camps of Glory MMA. And I mean, everyone involved distanced themselves from Glory MMA. They ran from it like an elevator fart. Like you would think,
no loyalty to
no. Wow.
Glory Fitness and MMA.
Yeah, and I saw tonight one of the Glory locations, like in Overland Park, which is just another suburb of Kansas City, already renamed itself something else.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I actually asked Scott. So I was at Bellator. If people didn't know, I was at Bellator the night before. I actually asked Scott Coker about James Krause and all that situation. He gave he gave the answer. I knew he was going to.
He gave the very Scott Coker answer.
Yeah, I even asked him he's like, oh, so it's up to the commission. They're the ones who licensed the coaches. I go, so if James Krause, if the commission licensed to James Krause, you'd be okay with him? And he's like, oh, I'd have to talk to my legal team. I was like, I knew he'd do that, but I'd at least try. The worst thing I thought from Silva was having being a guy who wants to grapple but doesn't have high level grappling cardio. He was fading. Yeah, that wasn't good. Before that, I actually think these next two guys, even Stephen Kozlov and lost, he took on Cameron Simon. Simon won by third round TKO. I thought both guys looked good.
I agree. We had a couple of fights tonight where probably neither guy's stock went up, even the winner. This is one where both guys proved that they probably belong in this division, and it's a tough division, so that's saying something.
Yeah. I think we kind of had a feeling about Simon that he was kind of UFC material. Yeah. Kozlov, not so much. No, I'm not saying Kozlov's going to fight for a title or anything like that, but he had moments. The issue I think he had was he's never going deeper than 5 minutes in a fight. He never passed the first round up until this moment. But he was also going to a guy who does the opposite. He's we've seen him 2 fights in a row, get late stoppages, getting stronger as the fight go on, kind of had the worst style of matchup. He's a guy who wanted to get the fight to the ground, but he also went against a guy who's pretty well-rounded, showed that he can hang on the ground. The thing I like about Simon is he's only 21. He's well-rounded. He's got a huge gas tank, and he seems like he has that mindset that he does. When it gets bad, he excels in those situations. The pressure's on. He likes it even better.
Yeah, I he seems to have the right attitude. He has things that you want to see in a younger fighter, demonstrated ability to go late into fights, because too many people are like Kozlov, and they tap everyone out in 4 minutes coming up, and you have no idea what they're going to look like outside of a first round. Kozlov, the only thing I didn't like about him was that it turns out that he has a swastika tattooed on his ankle.
Yeah, I saw that get tweeted out, but is it really? I'm not defending it. I'm asking the question. Has it been confirmed or?
I mean, I zoomed in really close on a high, it's a swastika. So I mean, if he's trying to pull Andrea Lee's digits, if he's trying to pull Andrea Lee's digits, this is probably a good first step. But I imagine.
I hope you're wrong. I mean, obviously, I hope you're wrong. Yeah, that's not a good look if it is. Again, I don't want to say it was because you want to give someone the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, of course you do.
Because I did see the picture and it was stopped, and somebody said something about anime. You know me, I don't follow that shit enough to. Yeah. You could. It doesn't either. Regardless, if you have a logo that could even be remotely interpreted as that, you probably might not want to have that tattooed on your body. Anyways, there you guys have it. We've covered all, was it 12 fights? 11 fights? 12 fights?
12, yeah.
12 fights. All right. Sorry. Yeah. Those top 2 fights messed me up so much. All right, let's get to the fun stuff. Do we have the awards?
Awards. Drum roll, please. I have the awards.
Okay.
And there's no point even guessing. There was a fight of the night, but then everyone who got a finish got a performance bonus.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, and the fight of the night, kind of obvious.
Had to be Paddy Pimblett and Jared Gordon. He said it was fight of the night. Let me see if I can guess real quick. Let me see if I can guess. Let me look. I don't think we had like this barn burner. I don't know. Now you got me. Now I'm intrigued. Maybe. Oh, I'd say Ponza Moreno.
Oh, it was Till versus Duplessis.
Oh yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah, that was pretty good too. Okay.
Yeah. So, but I always makes me happy when, I mean, perfect world, the pay structure in MMA would be done differently. It wouldn't be like getting rid of bonuses would get rid of begging, and even the show and win thing. Like I find a little iffy because it puts half of your income in the hands of Doug Crosby. But yeah, so everyone got to finish. I like that because the guys in that opening fight were making 10 and 10. A $50,000 check for Simon is life-changing money.
Oh, absolutely. Shit. Yeah. I mean, you can buy yourself a brand new
He's 21.
Oh yeah, no shit. Yeah.
I hope he just gives the check to his mom and has her put it in the bank for him.
Yeah. Can Ross even get 50,000? Is that allowed?
Yeah, well, like his mom gets a minivan so she can take him to the PI.
His mom has to open up a bank account for him.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the cut list. If you guys are not familiar with the cut list, it's it's pretty self-explanatory. We say who the UFC can get rid of. Obviously, this is extremely negative, but it also opens up opportunities for other people. The way we do it, both Ben and I both have to have it on. We have to have the same person on our list to cut them. So if one of us does not have them, they get saved. Ben, I have 2. I think we're gonna have the exactly same 2.
I have 3.
Ooh, which means I'm being nice to somebody. Ben, you've been usually I used to be the negative one, but you've been the more negative one lately.
I'm taking out my frustrations. I'm the hatchet man.
It's a holiday season, brother.
This is like dark Ben. I'm going full heel here.
All right, I'll give you my 2.
All right.
Jay Perrin. Jay Perrin's 0-3 in the UFC. You just got beat up by a kid who's in high school.
Zonk. I'm with you.
That kid's a really good high school kid.
Yeah.
But you're still a grown man who think about this a second. You're a grown man who fights in the UFC. Who, if you walked into this high school, this guy's taking your lunch money. That's not good.
That's alarming. Yeah.
The other one, and again, guys, obviously I'm just playing here for the show. Jay Perrin's still in the 1% of 1% of people in the world for toughness. So
yep.
And the other guy, Dolce Langbula, the guy's lost 4 fights in a row in the UFC. This had to be the last time.
Yeah, I think he was only kept around because they needed to fight for Edmund Shabazian.
Yeah,
and they wanted it to be winnable. I had those 2. I'm also letting Darren Till go. Sorry.
I had a feeling. I'd still use him to get someone else over. He's on this streak of losses, and people are still super excited about seeing him. He's still marketable. Why should he be? No. But yeah, no.
I don't think they will because of the reason you mentioned. Like, as bad as a run as he's on, somebody else would snap him up, and the UFC is just desperate about keeping its toys until they're completely broken, unless they're too expensive. That's the other thing with Till. Till makes more money than a guy who's 1-5 in the last 4 years should be making, according to them. Dude, they cut Sage Northcutt because he was making 80 and 80. And he was 5-2 in the UFC at the time.
Yeah. Can Mike Jackson make middleweight? Get Darren Till a win? No, somehow Mike Jackson will win. Darren Till would get disqualified or something. All right, we love Mike Jackson.
Yep.
So shout out to I'm sorry, I just took his name off. 1 foot out the door for the Mike Jackson reference. Let's get to the Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and the Bears are a stock market reference. If something's going good, it's a bull market. A bull stock is going bad, it's a bear market or bear stock. We do it hockey style 3, 2, 1. Let's Yeah, let's keep it. Yeah, let's go positive.
Okay.
Ben, you want to go first?
Sure.
And shout out to the chat. You guys throw your Bulls and Bears up there. I'll try to get them up on them.
Yeah, bull number 3, really young people. Cameron Simon, 21 years old. Raul Rosas Jr., 18 years old, as the UFC booth never hesitated to remind us.
Yeah.
Both of them won in pretty dominant fashion. I'd throw in with the youth movement Edmund Shabazian. He is 25 years old. He feels like a busted prospect. He's still just 25 and made the right move apparently a little over a year ago, and is going to get is going to get a new act in his career. So I like that one. Number 2, Paddy Pimblett. We arrived there by ugly means. I did not score the fight for him. In fact, I scored all 3 rounds for his opponent, but as you pointed out, for what he wants to do, it's almost as good as a dominant win, because you listen to all the promo materials coming into this, and the first thing he says is, I know I'm going to be the biggest star in the sport. The second thing he says is, and I know I'm going to be a UFC champ. His priorities are manifest, like out of his very own mouth. And in terms of keeping his star afloat, this is another win. And it was a chance for him to just kind of say a couple outrageous things and make the mad ones matter and make the happy ones happier. So it was a good night for him, despite everything. Number 1, Ilia Topuria.
Yeah.
Ilia Topuria made the biggest statement of anybody tonight. And you and I both thought he was going to win. We both thought he was going to be a bad matchup for Mitchell, but I did not expect the level of just kind of physicality imposing itself there, because Mitchell's a big dude and Topuria ragdolled him. Took it to him on the feet, handled him on the ground, tapped him out, and that was a defeated looking Bryce Mitchell that got up from the ground there. If you told Bryce Mitchell right then that the earth is fucking round, he probably would have gone I know, I'm just being silly. Like,
yeah. He was probably circling the earth with some of those punches. Yeah, I had Topuria on my list too, so I'll give you 3 different ones. How about Chris Curtis? 4-1 in the UFC now, 9-1 since he retired the night at the PFL. He retired
after he lost twice in one night.
He retired. He's gone 9-1 with his only loss to Jack Hermanson, which is not a bad loss, obviously.
Yeah.
My number 2, I think Dev threw it out there. How about South African MMA going 2-0 on the night?
Come a long way since like Ruin Potts showed up in the UFC and just got crushed. Yeah.
And I know Duplessis talks about, I don't know those stadium structures or whatever in Africa, but he insider knowledge makes an argument that the only place they can go to and they can hold a UFC is South Africa. So Danny keeps talking about going to Africa. Maybe it's South Africa. And my number 1, you kind of referred to it, but I got to jump on the skin. Raul Rojas, the kid's 18 freaking years old. The kid's in high school, wins a UFC fight. Regardless what he does, he could lose every single fight. That is super tremendous. So he's number 1. Let's go negative now, guys. This is the list you don't want to be on. These are the Bears. I'll go first this time. I'm going to add brothers into this together. I'm going to go with the Dawkins brothers. I mean, back-to-back shows, they both got knocked, absolutely plunked. They've looked terrible. They both look at one time they were rising up the rankings, looked like a promising duo. Now really looking bad. My number 2, speaking of middleweights looking bad, Darren Till. I mean, his ground game has gotten worse. He's lost 3 in a row and 5 out of his last 6 fights since he fought for the title. He's looked really bad. And my number 1, and I know everyone's gonna say judges, and I'm just going with the UFC light heavyweight division. I guess Dana White fixed it, I guess. Moving on. The problem is the best fighter in the division he's probably not going to be crowned the next champion. I think Ankalaev's the best fighter in the division, and he didn't win the title. It's a mess. You have one champion, one champion gave up his belt. The former champion got a draw, so some other guy should get the belt. The another guy is saying, like, I don't want to fight in the UFC anymore. Your other option is they pulled Jamal Hill to get a title shot from a fight, and the other guy is like 75 years old.
Yeah, and it's if they didn't have a Brazil card that they needed to supply a main event for, they probably wouldn't have taken this step. It's a little bit of synergy happening, but no, I agree. Like, light heavyweight is a mess right now, and 6 months from now, whoever is holding that belt, I agree with you, is probably not going to be the person that everybody thinks is actually the best fighter in the division. It's a rough time for light heavyweight.
All right, give me your beers.
I agree with all of yours. So if they hadn't made that announcement, one of my bears would absolutely have been Glover Teixeira, just because he is not at an age where he can wait another 9 to 12 months for his shot. That's right. But I agree with all of yours. So all I'll throw on top of it is Bryce Mitchell. And I don't want to go too far overboard on this because it's not a personality thing. It's just, whenever an undefeated fighter takes their first loss, that is the definition of a stock down moment. You and I have talked a lot about how much that zero matters. Yep. It's the difference between how Alexander Volkanovski is perceived versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. The one, like that one in the loss column matters. What are you thinking?
I also think the way he lost, not that he got knocked on the feet, but like to get some, you're supposed to be the submission guy to get submitted. And I think the UFC broadcast really painted this narrative that wasn't true about Mitchell having such a huge advantage on the ground. Like the Porter's really freaking good on the ground, like really good. I don't know what that like, but still, you're supposed to be the crazy submission guy to get submitted. That always doesn't look good.
Chris Wiz said Morono had a bad night. It certainly ended badly. Like I don't like to see that. I have a text out like making sure dude is okay, but he also got his show and win money for a fight he didn't think he was getting like until 4 days ago. So that's a little something extra under the tree for Morono and for his lovely wife Janice and for the kids. So I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, and let's be honest, he knows where he stands. Like he knows he's not winning a UFC title or anything like that. So like getting a loss like this,
dude,
he just got himself a big bonus.
Yeah. The first time I ever interviewed him, I kind of asked him about his goals, and you talk to any UFC fighter, their goal is to win a title. He's like, no, I want to get 30 fights in the UFC. He's like, and at the time he was at like 11. He's like, I want to have 30. I want to have 30 kits hanging in my closet. I think he's at like 17 now or something. But yeah, like that.
He actually might make it. I don't know. I don't think he's going to, but he might.
Yeah. So not too bad a night for him. But yeah, like Mitchell, it's how he lost. Because if you asked me, I would have been like, okay, the first person who beats him is someone that he can't take down and boxes him up on the feet, which Topuria was, but then he also slammed him and choked him out, and that's the bad look.
Yeah. Chris was dogging your boy when I said he doesn't think he's going to be UFC champion. He goes, no, correction. He knows now he's not. Damn. Chris was coming. No fucks given.
That's all right.
Going after your boy, Alex Morono. All right, let's get to Dude Seriously. I got 2 Dude Seriously. Do you have any?
Yeah, I've got a couple of Dude Seriously.
All right, I'll go first. Billy Quarantillo had a fantastic night, but Billy Quarantillo, like, dude, seriously, 7-5 is not 11. Dude, seriously. And also, like, to the whoever runs the UFC's clothing department, whatever, like, dude, seriously, can you give a Dolce Lambula a smaller set of shorts? Like,
well, it's like his legs are 2 different sizes.
Yeah,
like his right leg is like twice the size of his left.
No, it was his left leg.
No, sorry, no, his left leg. Yeah, his left leg is like Kevin Randleman Pride version leg, and then his other leg is like Kevin Randleman Ohio State senior year leg. Like it's not normal. It's not okay. Like I'm expecting that we're going to find out, like, once the UFC lets him go, that he actually doesn't have a left leg and that's his dong, and he's been fighting as a one-legged fighter this whole time. I don't know, but
all right.
no, yeah, like Dalton doing that for aesthetics. It's like when Yoel Romero used to cross his singlet, you know? Yeah, so like you could just see like his muscles on his muscles, but yeah, like Dalton.
My son had his very first ever wrestling tournament at like 4.5 hours from now that I got to go to. I'm going to tell him to do that with the singlet. Just cross it up.
There you go. Is that all your dude series, Lise?
Yep.
All right. The only one I'll add, we kind of went over briefly at the time, but Magomed Ankalaev, like, dude, seriously, he is kicking your leg off. You're trying to switch stances and it's not working. You've abandoned your own kicks because you're worried about him kicking out your plant leg, because Ankalaev's high kicks were really effective for the first round or so, and it's not until like late in the third round that it occurs to you to like really start trying to take this man down, or at least crowd him on the fence. As much as I think he should have won the decision with some different in cage adjustments, it might not have been necessary. If yeah.
Is that the only one you had?
Yeah, that's the only one I'll add on. Yeah.
All right. What is your grade? Because we were on our way to an A+, but a lot of things changed. What's your grade of the card?
B. Like, it was still really, really sizzling on the way up, but it wasn't the best main card on paper, and then it just ended with such a bad taste to me. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I'll throw some of the listeners out there. I went with a C. I didn't hate the Paddy Pimblett decision. Like, if him winning, to me, controversy is always good to talk about, but I don't want to talk about a freaking draw. And I just think about this second. You had people who were really upset about this. You have the main event fallout. You get the co-main get moved up. People complaining about paying $70, $75, whatever it is, for a pay-per-view. And then you get a freaking draw on top of that.
Yep.
So, all those stoppages before that was exciting. So I'll give it a C. But it seems like everyone else, like Luke Wilson's going B+. So that's surprising. I get it. I guess I'm being tough. Chris Wiz goes to B. So I guess everyone else is more on everyone else is going B. Technical wealth going B. So most important question: who is our listener of the evening?
Well, understanding that like regulars are not, that you're automatically disqualified. Like Marcus Mustard, Luke Wilson, Technical Wealth, Dev, obviously, Boz, your name is over the door. RC Kim, our Far East Asia, correspondent, you're not allowed. I do like that Zyrock Daddy just dropped in and like called us a couple of elementary schoolers like in the middle of the show. That takes some balls. We'll take it.
Hey, which means we're not that far from being high school and getting our first UFC wins.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll take it. I'm. Yeah. Welcome, Zyrock. If you drop in like 15 minutes after the main event next time, we're breaking these things down from the top down, and there is a lot more technical talk. We were already at the fun stuff by the time you checked in tonight.
I'll go with. I'm really stuck. I was hoping you'd take one of them.
Hey, everybody got a bonus on the UFC card.
I didn't see that. I just saw the comment you made about Zyrock Daddy. Like, dude, watch the show, man. Ain't nobody get more technical than me and you, brother. We do literally the most in-depth preview shows and recaps on the planet. I'm gonna go with one foot out the door, man. He was coming in strong and had some funny lines, a couple of jabs, gave some good info. Yep. 1 foot out the door. But I also wanted. I was gonna give can I give an honorable mention? I gotta catch his name.
Just call it a draw.
Oh my god. Yeah. We'll go with a draw. I'm trying to. God, he was dropping breaking news all over. I'm trying to find his name. I apologize.
This is real good TV right here.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm trying to remember who it was. I don't remember who it was who was dropping news. Somebody was, but unfortunately, you didn't get it. I didn't. I ESPN'd you. I didn't source you on the news. So there you guys have it. That is the most in-depth recap show, but despite what Mr. Zyrock said in the entire world as we've gone.
True shot. That's who it was.
What was it?
True shot.
Oh, true shot was it. Yeah, that was how he was
Yep.
talking about. Yeah, they're always good too. So there you guys have it. We'll be back previewing UFC, whatever number it is, Jared Cannonier versus Sean Strickland card.
Yep. The last UFC card of the year. I'm still planning on previewing the Bellator versus Ryzen New Year's Eve card. Either like if you're available to jump in, I will. We'll do it. Otherwise, I will grab someone. But we'll cover at least like the big fights.
Yeah. Just so people know, the ones who only watch the recaps, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, we are not doing a recap next week's show. Both me and Ben. Ben's out of town. I actually had something else too. So kind of just. So if this is your last time, if this would be the last one of the year, if you do tune in just to the recaps, but we will have a preview, at least one. Ben might be having a second one. So So make sure you check that out, but do not come back next week. But even more important, if you're looking for a recap, don't go to some other ones. Just take a week off. See you guys.